The Galactic Union Academy on Iazok Prime did not smell like war. It smelled like sterilized metal, recycled air, and the faint tinge of chlorophyll from the Tharxian vine gardens lining the walkways, likely an effort to soothe the more volatile species with organic aesthetics. Every corner gleamed. Every movement within its walls was monitored, measured, and recorded. Precision wasn't just a virtue here, it was doctrine. Eva Raleigh's boots clicked against the polished obsidian floor with an intentional lightness, each step just enough to suggest obedience, not enough to suggest fear. Her uniform was tailored perfectly, just a tad sharper than regulation, but not enough to warrant reprimand. She smiled at everyone she passed, the kind of smile that gave away nothing. To the assembled cadets, multi-species and multi-eyed, she was the novelty. A human. Soft-skinned. Bipedal. Emotionally unhinged, according to half the instructors. And worse, smugly persistent, according to the other half. General Sklarvox didn't look up as she entered the strategy dome. He didn't need to. His upper eye stalk swiveled lazily, tracking her position like a bored cat watching a fly. His voice, gravel dragged over ice, filled the room. Ah, the pink-skinned mammal graces us with her presence. How thrilling. A ripple of condescending laughter echoed through the dome. Eva inclined her head. "General," she said evenly, "thank you for your warm welcome. I trust the lesson is already in progress." Sklar turned, his muscular tail swishing against the marble floor. He stood nearly a foot taller than her, plated in mottled blue armor that shimmered like oil. His face was reptilian, elegant in a cruel way. Lesson, yes. Though I hesitate to call it that when some species take longer to understand the concept of multidimensional tactics. Eva's eyes remained calm. "I do tend to learn best under pressure, sir." There it was. The flick of one of his nostrils. He didn't like her tone, and she knew it. The holo display at the center of the dome flickered to life, projecting the simulated battlefield. Swirling asteroid fields, planetary orbits, 3 factions engaging in real time. The Tharxian cadet beside Eva adjusted his multi-lens goggles and nudged his gelatinous neighbor. Sklar's voice boomed again. "You are assigned Faction Delta. Your task is to neutralize both Alpha and Gamma within 12 rotations without sacrificing more than 15% of your fleet. You will collaborate with your designated species team. And no," he added with a fong-filled grin, "we will not simplify the interface for your primitive nervous systems." Eva nodded. "Understood. If I may ask, sir, how are command branches distributed in this simulation? I'd like to avoid redundancy in decision loops." The room went still. One of the Vort cadets blubbered in confusion. Sklar narrowed his eyes. "What?" She clarified, politely. "You said we must collaborate. But if fleet command chains overlap, we risk looped orders. I was curious if the simulation allows for neural decoupling or if we'll be dealing with manual override." A longer silence. Then, Sklar strode across the floor in 3 deliberate steps and struck her across the face with the back of his armored hand. The sound cracked through the dome like a dropped plate. Eva staggered, but didn't fall. Her cheek flushed instantly, bright, human red, and a tiny trickle of blood traced her jaw. She took a breath, straightened her posture, and looked him in the eye. "Thank you, sir," she said, softly. That was informative. A few cadets looked away. Others smirked. Sklar returned to the central platform without further comment, as if brushing away a fly. 7 minutes remained on the simulation timer. Eva moved to her console. Her fingers moved quickly but without urgency. A few taps here. A few command overrides there. Her screen flickered. The interface language switched briefly to English, then back to standard Galactic. No one noticed. Except translator bot X-17, who stood nearby, silently logging everything. It tilted its head, synthetic voice humming under its breath. Command accepted. Terra Protocol Echo 6. Eva's voice barely whispered. Run program. Sleepwalker. From orbit, 6 Terran reconnaissance satellites, supposedly decommissioned, activated simultaneously. On the ground, 10 human cadets, scattered through various departments, from mess hall to propulsion labs, stood up, excused themselves politely, and entered locked mode execution sequences. In the strategy dome, the lights dimmed. Holograms blinked, then flickered red. Sklar frowned. Simulation glitch. Instructor Fellier's jelly mass quivered. System integrity at 40%. Diagnostic spiraling. Control panels are rejecting external input. Another cadet station sparked and hissed. Eva remained seated, hands folded. Apologies, sir. I believe you triggered a security cascade. Likely a result of your, physical interaction. The AI might have interpreted it as a threat to command personnel. Sklar snarled, spinning toward her. What did you say? The lights cut out entirely. Red strobes blinked overhead. Doors slammed shut. A low klaxon hummed like the warning growl of something large and patient. Sklar lunged for the master console. It refused his input. Override. This is General Sklar Vox. Code Prime Alpha 79. The console replied in a flat, female voice. Authorization denied. Hello, General. Please enjoy this curated human experience. Fellier shivered. That's not standard Galactic. Eva rose, calmly. Her cheeks still red from the strike, but her voice was calm as winter wind. Simulation complete, sir. Your army failed. Around her, consoles flared to life with data. Fleet maps, override strings, human-only protocols. Crawl, the lizard cadet who had spent the week calling her pet, stumbled back from his console, eyes wide. You hacked the dome? Eva didn't even glance at him. No. We designed it. X-17's voice chirped, confirming, Galactic Academy network fully compromised. Human override protocol engaged. Estimated time to full asset neutralization. 4 minutes, 19 seconds. Sklar froze. This is war. Eva nodded once. No, General. This is a test. Screens around the room began displaying footage. Earth history. Mushroom clouds. Handheld weapons that melted steel. Cities built and razed within decades. Wars won not through force, but through deception, pressure, and total surrender of predictability. Eva stepped forward. You wanted to study humans. You paraded us in front of your war colleges, laughed at our psychology, insulted our instincts. And still, we smiled. We observed. We adapted. Fellier murmured, voice like a rain-slick window. You planned this. Eva's voice was kind. Of course not. That would be unethical. This is merely an opportunity to observe your responses under unique pressure. Consider it research. Outside the dome, explosions rumbled, distant and rhythmic, like thunder far too close to be natural. Sklar's voice was hoarse. You'll be destroyed. The Union will retaliate. Eva turned to him slowly. Perhaps. But we've already mapped your central fleets, decoded your command habits, and embedded agents in your top 3 trade councils. You should ask yourself, General, not whether you can stop us, but whether you ever saw us coming. Another beat passed. Then, from her wristwatch, a clunky, Earth-made analog piece. An alarm beeped. She looked at it, then at Sklar. That's 7 minutes, sir. Right on schedule. Sklar's hands trembled. What are you? Eva tilted her head, the smile never quite reaching her eyes. Human. General. Just a human. Doors behind her hissed open. Only for her. She stepped out without turning back. The cadets inside remained frozen, unsure if they'd witnessed a war crime or the birth of something worse. In the hallway, Eva met 2 other human operatives. One offered her a cloth to wipe her cheek. The other handed her a small black case. Was it necessary? One asked. She dabbed the blood away. Very. Pain leaves a deeper echo than words. Now they'll listen. Next location. She tapped the case. Council outpost on Krellin 4. Time to see if their judiciary systems are as soft as their war colleges. As she walked away, X-17 trailed behind her, softly repeating, 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. And somewhere in the heart of the Union, 100 alien strategists rewatched the slap that started it all, and began to fear the smile that followed. The command dome of the Galactic Union Academy had never experienced true silence until the lights died and the klaxons faded into a strangled, artificial gasp. At first, the cadets assumed it was part of the simulation, part of the lesson. A test, perhaps, of composure under pressure. That illusion lasted precisely 45 seconds, until the oxygen filtration system hiccuped, choked, and began pumping cold, unfiltered air through the vents. Alien eyes began to widen. Human lungs adjusted without complaint. General Sklarvox slammed his fists against the master console, claws scraping the unresponsive controls. This is sabotage. Internal sabotage. Reset the interface. Now. Instructor Failure attempted to comply, translucent limbs slapping against the manual override. The system denied access. Again. A tone pinged with cheerful malice. Unauthorized user detected. Please report to the nearest incineration node. Failure squealed. Eva Raleigh stood near the dome's entrance, utterly still. Her posture was unthreatening, her expression gently curious, as if watching a child try to fix a broken toy. She clutched her wristwatch like it was a relic. It ticked softly. No holographic output. No projected data. Just time, keeping pace with inevitability. One of the cadets, a Zrexian armored in polished bone, turned toward her, his voice clicking through layers of mechanical resonance. You did this. You triggered this cascade. You a creature. Eva tilted her head. That's a strong accusation. Especially from someone who's currently locked inside a training facility with a species you've never fully understood. Crawl, the lizard cadet, hissed. You're human. Your brains are soft. You speak in jokes. What could you possibly understand about war? I understand plenty, Eva said, her tone unfailingly pleasant. For instance, the importance of environmental manipulation. You fear disorder. I grew up in it. It's a beautiful thing, watching control unravel. Sklar barked. She's stalling. Seize her. 2 cadets lunged toward her. Neither made it halfway. The lights pulsed again, and the floor beneath them fractured, not violently, but precisely, opening into anti-grav shafts. They flailed in zero-G suspension, spinning uselessly until safety restraints clamped them to the walls. Eva sighed. This facility has over 600 environmental override options. Did you think we were here just to take notes? Who is we? Failure demanded. Eva's smile remained. Well, that would be telling. Elsewhere on Iazok Prime, in seemingly unrelated departments, 11 more humans were moving. Not soldiers. Not in the traditional sense. Maintenance workers. Language specialists. A human chef in the officers' dining wing. They moved with calm precision, sealing doors, diverting power, uploading command disruptors into the network architecture. Each one had a phrase they whispered into their comlink: protocol, birthday cake. The phrase meant everything was going exactly to plan. Back in the dome, the walls flickered, and footage appeared. Surveillance feeds. Internal schematics. Satellite uplinks. One screen showed the orbiting fleet of the Galactic Union, vessels the size of continents blinking offline, one by one. Eva turned slightly and gestured toward the feed. You store your defense protocols in predictable sequences. Stack-based logic with a preference for hierarchical override. We figured it out in a week. Crawl thrashed against the restraints. Lies. Fabrications. No species can breach the fleet's encryption. Eva offered a soft shrug. That's true. No species. But a human. All we needed was permission to observe. You handed us the key and told us to take our time. Sklar's scales had begun to dull. What do you want? Eva turned to him, hands clasped gently at her waist. That's the wrong question. The better one is, what did we come here to find out? The lights dimmed again. This time, it wasn't atmospheric. It was psychological. The aliens watched the footage of their own ships falling from orbit, powered down, adrift. Not destroyed. Not harmed. Just powerless. A ghost fleet in a silent sky. Eva walked over to Instructor Failure, who was trembling slightly, his jelly mass vibrating with panic. Did you know, Eva said conversationally, that early Earth children play a game called Capture the Flag? We send them into simulated war zones at the age of 5. Not holograms. Real paint. Real terrain. Hide. Ambush. Outsmart. Do you know how many of those kids would have neutralized this facility in half the time I did? Failure couldn't answer. His vocal processors were shorting from internal stress. Eva continued, her voice a lullaby with edges. You thought we were behind you in evolution because we didn't evolve claws or chitin. But we evolved something else. We evolved around stories. Around fear. Around turning pain into precision. Our minds. Predatory. But charming, too. Soothing. So very polite. General Sklar was whispering now, perhaps to himself, perhaps to the broken gods of his ancient bloodline. You smiled when I struck you. I did, Eva said, because I had just been given the last piece I needed. Confirmation of protocol authority. The physical act of aggression fulfilled the final trigger for human countermeasure activation. The dome quaked slightly. Somewhere below, the energy cores realigned, favoring human access. The human chef, now in full tactical gear, had taken control of the Academy's core power routing. He began uploading culture packets, propaganda, history, and a subtle message. Never provoke a species that teaches 6-year-olds to bluff adults with fake weapons and real consequences. Cadet Crawl spat venom. It sizzled against the anti-grav restraints. You tricked us. Eva's voice grew quieter, like something moving deeper into a forest. We gave you our stories, our songs, our media, and you thought it was all fantasy. You thought we made up monsters. A panel on the far wall slid open, not with a hiss, but a slow mechanical drawl. Inside, a small human girl, no more than 10, stood in a mock academy uniform. She blinked once, smiled, and said, "Hello." The entire room froze. Eva's gaze softened. This is Mari. She's part of our psychological warfare initiative. You see, even our children know how to weaponize innocence. Mari walked over to the console, hopped up, and began playing with the settings like she was tuning an old radio. A few seconds later, soothing earth music filled the room, twangy guitars, a little Johnny Cash. The tonal whiplash was intentional. Sklar looked like a dying sun. Why are you doing this? Because, Eva said, you slapped the wrong species. The dome cracked open above them. The stars shimmered through the fractures in the ceiling. Dozens of alien eyes followed Eva's finger as she pointed upward. Our people didn't come here to assimilate. We came to assess. To test your boundaries. To see if you were worth fearing. And, whispered Failure. Eva's smile finally faded. Her voice dropped into steel. You aren't. The moment shattered. Sirens wailed across the academy, not as warnings, but as notifications. The Union's internal systems were now broadcasting the event across 17 member worlds. From the central archive on Iazok Prime to the embassy on Shundal, the message was clear: human intervention successful. Time to full neutralization. 7 minutes, 12 seconds. Eva turned away from the broken general, the trembling instructor, and the paralyzed cadets. You know what makes us different, she said over her shoulder. You wage war when you're confident. We do it when we're cornered. When it's unfair. When we're told to sit still. Mari skipped after her, the little girl humming along to the guitar chords still echoing through the facility. Translator Bot X-17 hovered nearby, still logging everything. Crawl screamed after her. You won't get away with this. Eva glanced back. But we already did. And next time, you won't see us coming at all. She exited the dome. The doors sealed with the soft sigh of something ancient being buried. In the silence that followed, General Sklar dropped to one knee. Not in surrender, not in pain, but in the realization that his world, the order he had believed in, enforced, and built his life around, had cracked. Failure slumped beside him. What do we do now? No one answered. The domes across the academy had gone still. Not from destruction, but from paralysis. Eva hadn't needed to destroy their army. She had turned it off like a careless child flipping a light switch. Somewhere far above the clouds, Earth's diplomatic vessel, camouflaged as a civilian cargo hauler, received the ping of confirmation. The message read, "Objective complete. Empire in suspended state. Fleet offline." Beneath that, "New directive pending. Observation or escalation. Await further instruction." In a private chamber aboard that vessel, a man with tired eyes and a suit that didn't fit quite right poured himself a cup of coffee and said, "So, they slapped our girl." His aide nodded. She slapped back. The man smiled. Good. Let them remember it started with a smile. Back on Iazok Prime, the cadets slowly untangled themselves from terror. Krall tried to speak. Sklar tried to stand. Failure simply whispered a single sentence. "I think we may have invited the wrong guests." Eva, meanwhile, walked beneath the stars. Her boots no longer made a sound on the floor. There was no need for pretense anymore. Behind her, Mari skipped, humming louder now. And in front of her, the next phase waited, unseen but inevitable. The humans were no longer the subject of ridicule. They were a question no species wanted to answer. And Earth had just rewritten the exam. By the time the Galactic Union's emergency war response protocols reached activation threshold, half the planetary uplink towers were spitting static into the void. The ones that still operated did so with polite, Earth-accented greetings, calm assurances that the situation was under professional supervision, and, most disturbingly, smooth jazz. In orbit, the first response fleet tried to reposition. That attempt ended when all auto-navigation systems rerouted their thrusters and delicately nudged the capital ship into a wide, slow spin, like a lazy pirouette over the academy. From the ground, it looked like a child's toy on a string. Fleet Commander Galactic, stationed aboard the cruiser Fury of Logic, watched the feeds with 6 unblinking eyes. His mandibles clicked softly as the human girl, Eva Raleigh, walked unescorted through the broken corridors of the Union's most secure military installation. A tactical virus had hijacked everything. That much was clear. But it wasn't the code he feared. It was her walk. Not triumphant. Not rushed. Simply relaxed. A stroll. Like she'd done it all before. "She's bluffing," his second-in-command murmured. Gralketha's voice was a low drone. "No. This is what predators look like when they're no longer pretending." On the surface, Eva entered the barracks wing where Cadet Krall had once boasted about his people's tradition of blood duels and bone forging. He now lay against the wall, cradling a dislocated shoulder, teeth bared not in defiance but dread. His tongue flicked once, seeking moisture in a mouth gone dry. Eva crouched beside him. "How's the arm?" Krall growled. "Fight me. Fair." She raised a brow. "Ah, yes. Honor. That ancient excuse for making stupid decisions feel righteous." She glanced around. "We outnumbered, outgunned, and outschemed your entire war college in under 10 minutes. Why would I do anything fairly now?" "You're cowards." "We're apex predators," she said lightly. "We just wear sweaters and send thank you cards." He tried to lunge. His arm buckled. She didn't flinch. "Here's a free tip," she added. "Stop announcing your plans before you execute them. You're not in a drama class." Krall slumped back. "What do you want from us?" Eva stood. "Nothing, really. We just wanted to see if you were the threat the Union claimed to be. Turns out, you're a bureaucracy with muscles." Elsewhere in the academy, X-17 hovered beside the wreckage of the communications tower, humming cheerfully as it uploaded archival logs into Earth's DeepNet relay. Translator by name, spy by design, the bot's real function had never been linguistic. It recorded emotional tonality, facial tics, atmospheric shifts, subtle signals of instability. Its processors now ran hot, calculating one cold, obvious conclusion. The Union didn't know how to fight monsters that didn't look like monsters. From a viewing deck near the Academy's summit, General Sklar watched the stars flicker. Or perhaps it was his vision. It didn't matter. Nothing in his long career had prepared him for this kind of defeat. Not through fire. Not through force. Through control. Utter, creeping, grinning control. Failure joined him silently, gelatinous mass quivering like a wind-shaken leaf. "They've done something to our signals," Sklar muttered. "No," said Failure. "They are the signal now." Behind them, the deck doors slid open with a whisper. Eva stepped through. Her voice came like a quiet story by a campfire. "Funny thing about dominance. You always think you have it, right until someone takes it without asking." Sklar turned, spine rigid. "You're violating 100 interstellar codes." "So did your hand," she replied softly, "when it met my face." He flinched. "A disciplinary response." Eva stepped closer. "And this is a response to your response. That's how escalation works." She moved to the edge of the glass, watching the stars spin lazily above the Academy's shield dome. Her reflection stared back at her, young, calm, deliberate. "We're not angry," she said. "We're just done pretending." Sklar's tone cracked. "You've proven your point." "No," she said. "I've only introduced it." In orbit, Earth's diplomatic vessel, the Heritage Dawn, had shifted into position. It didn't fire weapons. It released drones, small, elegant probes that scattered like pollen into the void. Each one latched onto a different Union ship with surgical precision. Not to destroy, to learn. Every ship in the fleet was being reverse-engineered in real time. The realization sent waves of panic through the Union command. But every effort to isolate, to counter, to reboot failed. The moment any ship broke protocol and attempted independent action, the drones shut it down, politely, without harm, but with finality. Human tacticians aboard the Heritage Dawn watched calmly, sipping coffee. "They haven't even tried to surrender," one muttered. "Give it time," said another. "They're still in the denial phase." Back on Iazok Prime, Eva passed a group of surviving cadets who stared at her like she had grown fangs. She offered a small, sincere smile. "Don't worry. We only decimate people once." One brave Tharxian cadet approached her. "Why not destroy us completely?" Eva paused. "Because we're not conquerors. We're reminders." The cadet tilted her head. "Of what?" "That you should have read our histories more carefully," Eva said. "We don't conquer planets. We make examples." The cadet fell silent. Eva entered the Academy's main server vault, the core of their strategic simulations and military R&D. Two humans stood at attention. One had previously posed as a logistics intern, the other had played a slow-witted janitor. "Ready?" she asked. The janitor, now carrying a pulse injector, nodded. "Systems cloned. Shadow shell active. No trace." Eva gave a low whistle. "Send the final signal. Let Earth know the test phase is complete." "Message sent," said the other. "Also, the cafeteria AI started writing poetry." "Let it," Eva said. "It's earned a hobby." She turned to X-17, who had silently followed her in. "Are they watching?" X-17's light pulsed. "Affirmative. All remaining Union military command units are currently observing your behavior for threat analysis." "Perfect," she said. "Give them a show." The lights in the server room dimmed. A single display blinked on, showing a rotating hologram of Earth. From space, it looked unremarkable. Blue, green, clouded. But Eva tapped the screen, and the image flickered. Layers appeared: wars, insurgencies, collapse, reinvention. A timeline that looked less like history and more like a survival manual. "This," she said to the observing eyes behind invisible cameras, "is what you called backward. This is what you mocked." The timeline paused at a sequence of conflicts labeled unprovoked, asymmetric, victorious. "We don't win because we're stronger. We win because we don't ask permission." The feed cut. High in orbit, Gralketh lowered his head. "We never should have let them in. Too late." On the ground, Eva walked back toward the main hall. Sklar waited there, flanked by Failure and several cadets. He held no weapon. His posture was not defensive. He looked exhausted. "You've neutralized our systems," he said. "Our command. Our ships." Eva nodded. "Yes. And now?" She studied him. For the first time, a faint trace of empathy touched her face. "Now," she said, "you get to decide what kind of species you are. Not to us. To yourselves." Failure asked, voice hushed. "Why not end it?" Eva stepped forward, her voice soft but unrelenting. "Because ending you would teach you nothing. But living in a galaxy where you know someone smiled while dismantling your empire, that teaches you fear. And fear, General, is a hell of a motivator." She turned and walked away. Behind her, no one followed. Not out of respect. Not out of discipline. But out of fear. Krall, still nursing his shoulder, watched her disappear into the distance. He muttered something in his native tongue, a prayer, or a curse, or perhaps both. In the cold, glass-lined corridors of a military empire now stripped bare, the echoes of boots marked the rhythm of a new era. One not born from brutality, but from quiet, smiling precision. And Earth, watching from the shadows, was only just beginning to show its teeth. The silence following conquest is never truly silent. It is filled with the quiet mechanics of adaptation, the hiss of power rerouted through unfamiliar systems, the shudder of recalibration, the low whimper of dignity collapsing under the weight of realization. On Iazok Prime, the war drums had stopped. Not from exhaustion, but from irrelevance. Eva Raleigh stood alone in the Academy's central atrium, her eyes lifted toward the high dome, now fractured with soft lines from where the shield had cracked under its own failed defenses. Moonlight filtered through the damage, bathing the once pristine marble floor in a ghostly pallor. She waited. Not for backup. That had long since arrived, though discreetly. The Heritage Dawn floated above the skyline like a second sun, and Earth's agents now moved freely through the shadows, dismantling the Union systems, not with weapons but with edits, deletions, suggestions. A war fought not with bombs, but bureaucratic death by 1,000 subtle reclassifications. No, Eva was waiting for the decision. She heard the steps before she saw the figure. General Sklar moved without ceremony, the sharpness of his posture dulled. Gone was the tail-flick arrogance, replaced by something slower. Something ancient. He stopped a few meters away from her, glanced upward, then let out a long breath that sounded like air scraping over broken glass. "This is what defeat looks like," he said. Eva didn't answer immediately. She let the weight settle. "Yes," she finally replied. "But not your species' defeat. Just your illusion." Sklar's tongue flicked the air. "You dismantled our entire command structure in minutes. Hijacked our fleet. Reduced our military doctrine to an object lesson in hubris. Why not end us?" Eva turned, facing him fully. "Because we don't believe in clean endings. We believe in memory. You'll remember this longer than you'd remember fire." "I struck you," Sklar said, eyes narrowing. "And 7 minutes later." "Your empire fell," Eva finished. "Yes." There was a moment where the air itself seemed to hesitate. Sklar's claws flexed but didn't rise. "What are you?" She smiled, not cruelly, not mockingly, but with something almost wistful. "We're polite monsters. We give you a seat at the table, we pour you tea, and if you strike us, we don't scream. We take notes. And then we quietly flip the table, rewire the lights, and invite your enemies to dinner. You could have ruled us." "We have no interest in ruling amateurs," she said gently. From across the academy, Failure approached, gliding slowly like a melting ghost. Behind him trailed a mix of cadets, staff, and recovered Union techs, all wearing the same expression, that fragile look people wear after they've heard the word extinct whispered too close to their name. Eva glanced at them. Have they decided? Fellier nodded, voice low. They're calling it a containment agreement. Earth will not be invited to further diplomatic treaties, but also will not be opposed publicly. In short, Eva translated, you'll pretend this never happened. History will require edits. Eva chuckled softly. It usually does. A ripple of emotion moved through the crowd. The humans who had revealed themselves over the last days didn't celebrate. They worked. Quietly. Efficiently. Strategically. Some helped clean debris. Others uploaded translated educational modules into the Union's archives, curated lessons on humility, on asymmetrical thinking, on the psychology of unpredictability. And then there was Mari. The child had become a symbol, not of innocence, but of foreshadowing. She now sat in the command dome, surrounded by species that had once dismissed her as a diplomatic curiosity. She played a simple Earth game, stacking colored blocks, knocking them over, starting again. Is this more human training? A cadet asked her cautiously. Mari looked up and grinned. It's called Jenga. Want to try? No one accepted the invitation. Back outside, the Union's Provisional Command had convened, now a hodgepodge of scarred pride and recalibrated diplomacy. They presented Eva with a data scroll, etched in crystal, containing the official record of the incident. She read it, laughed once, then handed it back. You left out the part where your ships begged us to stop. That was deemed demoralizing, a clerk murmured. We have therapists, she said. You might want to hire some. Sklar looked at her, genuinely confused. Why do you speak so kindly while holding a dagger to our throats? Because, Eva said, voice silk over stone, you understand kindness. You don't understand malice. If we came snarling, you'd know how to react. So we didn't. We smiled. We offered friendship. And when you mistook our patience for passivity, we showed you the difference. She stepped forward, her boots echoing across the tile. You'll recover, she said. Not quickly. But you'll remember. You'll build differently. Think differently. And that's all we needed. Fellier asked. So this was mercy? No, Eva said. This was a mirror. Across the stars, worlds watched. Broadcasts trickled through unofficial channels. The Union citizens, once told humans were soft, sentimental, now received footage of those same humans walking silently through the wreckage of arrogance. No flames. No gloating. Just a quiet reclamation of control. At Earth Command, tucked inside a mountain beneath kilometers of reinforced rock and digital camouflage, leaders observed the outcome with clinical satisfaction. One admiral leaned back. So what now? We conquered an empire. We corrected it, the director replied. Now we wait for them to thank us. You think they will? In their way, the director said. Maybe not aloud. But watch how they restructure. Their reforms will echo our fingerprints. And on Iazok Prime, reforms had already begun. The academy wouldn't close, it would pivot. Its name had already been changed. It was now the Institute for Strategic Humility. And the human instructors? They were offered full positions. Most declined. A few accepted. Eva declined. Her mission was done. The new students would learn a different kind of war, one built not on volume of force but on volume of thought, on nuance, on misdirection, on manners. She watched her last sunset on Iazok Prime from a steel balcony that smelled faintly of ozone and regret. Sklar stood beside her, now clad not in a general's armor but in neutral robes, humbled and haunted. He didn't speak for a long time. When he did, it was barely above a whisper. I will carry this memory until my bloodline ends. Eva nodded. That's the point. Sklar looked at her, and for the first time, there was no rage. Only curiosity. Do you regret it? No, she said. But I do wish it hadn't been necessary. He bowed his head. If we had welcomed you instead of patronizing you, you'd still have your army, she said. But you wouldn't have grown. The wind shifted. Somewhere below, Mari laughed. Sklar stared into the horizon. You're not what we expected. Neither are you, Eva said, and with that she turned. The Heritage Dawn took her aboard in silence. She didn't look back. Hours later, the galaxy received a new transmission. Short, elegant, and unmistakably human. To all known species of the Union, we decline your membership, not because we fear you, but because we've seen you. We wish you well. Truly. But if you touch Earth again, we'll show you what we left in the basement. The message ended with an image. Not of ships, not of weapons, but of Eva's face. Smiling, just before the first simulation began. That face would haunt the dreams of 100 worlds. On the deck of the Heritage Dawn, as stars slipped past, Eva stood beside X-17. Status? She asked. All objectives achieved. Union Political Trust Index down 62%. Reformation initiatives in progress. Strategic deterrence active. Eva nodded. And Earth? X-17's lens swiveled. Earth is proud. For a moment, Eva didn't speak. Then she said, they'll come back. One day. Yes. They'll be smarter. Hopefully. And we'll be ready. X-17's processors hummed. You have a strange mind, Eva Raleigh. She smiled. No. I have a human mind. They stood together in the silence of space, two outlines watching a galaxy unmake and remake itself around the echo of one small, deliberate act. A slap. A smile. And 7 minutes that rewrote everything.